All right, we are live. Welcome, Dave Shattls. Good to have you on here. This is a ADPI Frontline Report, and we wanted to highlight Dave because he's an amazing member of the ADPI community. How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing well, Eric. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, we are so excited that you found us. We'll talk a little bit about that, but we're so excited to have you as just a regular action taker, somebody who sees the vision, sees what they're doing, sees what we're doing, and is really taking advantage of it. So why don't you start off by just telling all the viewers and our community who you are and tell us about yourself.
Sure. So I'm Dave Shattls. I'm an active Guard Reserve guy in the Air Force, Lieutenant Colonel type, and I go by Lemon because I'm a flyer. It's a different story for a different time, but yeah, I started doing some real estate deals in 2017. Actually, I wanted to start doing it in 2008 when the market crept, but my wife she wasn't on board. So if you're not aligned, if you don't have alignment with your team, and your spouse is your first member of your team, your nucleus, she didn't want to do it. I said okay, and we watched, and then there was an event that happened, and it kind of it was an open door, and we just had to. I couldn't not take advantage of it, so we pushed through, and that was the first deal we did in 2017, and then we did another one 8 months later, and now, and then it's evolved. We haven't had any more acquisitions since then, but the learning and the everything else that goes along with it has constant.
You've certainly been doing a lot since then. That is for sure. And so let me ask you this, because this is something that I've had to figure out, navigate. Yep. And a lot of people who are watching this are going to have to try to navigate as well. How do you make that transition to talking to your spouse about real estate investing or about, whatever else it is you want to do?
Well, so my wife's got an entrepreneurial background. She's got a network marketing business that she runs out of the house. But previous to that, she was a corporate vice president. So she far exceeds the level of responsibility that I've had. But once we made the transition with the family, and I'm sorry if you can hear the dog in the background.
We've all got dogs and kids and everything, so don't worry about it, man. It's real life.
But yeah, so anyway, it was something that I had been talking about, and she had, we just back and forth. And as our investment strategy and discussions of what we're doing with our investments kind of evolved, and I said, hey, there's really, we're heavy in paper, right? Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, right? The stuff that Kiyosaki talks about. And I said, we need to diversify into other things, and real estate became the other thing. And that kind of started it. And once she realized that real estate is a thing, and actually here's something that I think this was really what turned her brain. Through her company, we went to their national convention in Salt Lake City, and we go every year. One of the really high, depending on what company had a seminar, and her brother is a tax accountant, and gave a 30-minute shtick on, what your small business, what your sole proprietor business does for your taxes. And so I approached Jason, who's now my tax accountant, and we started talking. And his sister is the one that, the presidential diamond or whatever. And she turned to my wife and says, yeah, our entire family does real estate and oils. And done. That was
got it. So it kind of comes down to like an aha moment, right? It's just like there's one little spark that goes, yep, okay, I've heard this you hear it one time and it's like, oh my gosh, that's it. Or you've heard it so many times from so many people that you just, something ignites, and then you go from there. That's amazing.
And sometimes it's just hearing it from the right person
at the right time.
At the right time, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of our community members just said, so great, glad you have a supportive spouse. It makes a big difference and makes a great team grow. And I've, my wife is my backbone. Also, she's the reason I can do all the things that I do, and keeping me grounded and keeping the family running and keeping me running and everything. But not interested in real estate investing. She's interested in it to the extent that I am. But
Yeah.
other than that, so it is something. That's why I asked, because I think it's something that everybody, whether you're a military spouse at home while your husband or wife is deployed, and you're investing in real estate, maybe that's where you stand right now. But to have your spouse supporting what you're doing definitely does help the team grow. And it can be a gradual thing. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And the first deal, she was in helping paint at the end game, and
Yeah.
helping kind of vet and discuss the terms of leases, and then when we did the second house, she was the point of contact for was Zillow, Rent, or whatever whatever
Yeah.
platform, Military by Owner, whichever ones we use most of them, and she put her name and number as the contact person, and so she's involved, and
Nice.
she's more the silent partner, but she's definitely involved.
That's
So,
good. That's
and
good. You can both.
I'm involved in her stuff too. So it's not just a one-way street. She's got her business, and my name's on the company, and we I don't teach the classes, but I certainly recruit and talk to people, and discuss the products and things like that. So it's not a one-way street.
Yeah, that's great. It's a team, right? I mean, it's a give and take, and you find your spot on their team, and they find their spot on your team, and then that's what makes things work really well. So let me ask you this: How did you find ADPI? How did you run into us?
So let's go back in time. I started my YouTube education, if you will, years ago. I joke that I bought a car with a Bluetooth connection, and I driving from my place in Alexandria out to Andrews Air Force Base is about 25 miles each way. So in DC terms, it's about 40 minutes. And I was like, I could get a book done, whatever. And then I started YouTubes and things like that. So I'm getting rid of that car, and that car is now 10 years old. But as 2017 came around and we started doing the deals, I started with, I don't know anything about this, because I really didn't. And it was the books, and it was the webcasts, and I started finding. I think I started with Clayton Morris, and then I went to obviously Kiyosaki, and I just started kind of clicking through the whatever came up in my YouTube feed.
Yeah.
And then I don't know which of the ADPI stuff I found next, but it probably was a spur off of Bigger Pockets.
Sure.
I was on Bigger Pockets for a lot. There's a guy, I can't remember his name, but he was a guest on Bigger Pockets, and he's an active duty Air Force guy that he's just getting out. And when he was down at Maxwell, he did a whole bunch of, he ended up getting a whole bunch of properties down in Montgomery, and he's been on the ADPI podcast too, and I can never remember his name. But he and I have like 4 or 5 mutual friends.
Oh, awesome! Yeah,
we've never met because
Interesting how YouTube and SEO can make your life change, right? Just literally scrolling through and finding the next thing to watch, and YouTube knows where you pause and where you watch.
Last
and all that.
summer, we were getting ready to PCS to Portland, Oregon, and I saw something, and I realized that Kevin Brenner was standing in the Pentagon in uniform doing a whatever picture or video or whatever, and I was like, I should reach out to him. And then I got into the institutionalized mindset of, I'm a lieutenant colonel, he's a captain, maybe this isn't right to say,
sure. Yeah.
talk about our side hustles,
Yeah.
And I didn't, and it was my mistake, because I there's nothing that says that I can't or I shouldn't. It was kind of an awkward, transition for me, because I was leaving, and so it seemed disingenuous and ill-timed. And in hindsight, I should have just said, "Hey, let's meet in the courtyard and talk."
Maybe let's talk about that for a second, just for 30 seconds or something, because there are a lot of people out there that worry about fraternization of between ranks and enlisted versus an officer. So, what is your take on all that?
So, my thing, and I do this with my troops, and I do this with other people that I've met. If you are my troop, I will refer you down the line, frequently. Actually, one of my direct reports, she's going to pin on E9. She's going to pin on Chief. I just sent her over to Spencer Thomas to get her life insurance set up for her
Cool.
grandson. So that was one, and I got another E7 that I sent to Jason Wood for a VA loan
Perfect.
earlier.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, Spencer Thomas is our Chief Financial Services Officer for our lending branch and also for ADPI Insurance. And Jason Wood's one of our branch managers for American Mortgage Network, which is the lending branch that we own.
Yep. But for others, I've started to get more comfortable with at least having the discussion on what is real estate investing, how does it benefit you, and it's not so much well, I'm an officer and you're enlisted or junior, whichever. It's more on the here's what I'm doing and you can do it too. And a quick story on that: I was TDY'd in Texas for like 2.5 months earlier this year, and I did a refi on that first house, that 2017 purchase, while I was in Texas. So my mortgage broker sent me the stuff, FedEx. I went to the JAG office to get the notary, and while I'm standing there, a one stripe airman is, looking, going, he's the second witness, and he's like, so what's, you don't live here, I don't understand, and we got into this conversation.
Yeah.
And then the paralegal, the civilian, is going, yeah, I buy all stuff all the time. And, and all of a sudden, next thing I know, there's 4 airmen standing there, right? They're all E2s, E3s, great kids, and they're like, okay, so they're asking questions. And I told them about it. And I need to get a box of the books because I would literally just hand them a book if I had them. Yeah. But I gave them the website and they wrote all that stuff down. And I should have taken a picture, but it's things like that I've gotten more comfortable in more of a, I don't want to say advisory or teaching, because I don't see myself as a teacher, and I don't use the preachy, gospel-y, type terminology, but it's essentially just talking and networking and being comfortable and knowing enough that I can have a 30-minute conversation with somebody about what does real estate entail and what does it take to do it, right?
So I want to highlight a couple of things there because we teach learn, network, add value, take action. We talk about those things constantly. Every live I do, I say that and more. But what I'm hearing you say is you're building your personal brand, but you're also networking. Personal brand, guys, for you out there who are not familiar with what that term really is just talking to people about what your needs are and what your aspirations are, and putting out energy of like, this is me, this is how I do it, this is what you said. I'm not preachy, I'm not a teacher, I don't feel like that's who I am or whatever, but you're a connector. You're connecting the dots for people, and you're connecting people with other people. And that is a huge part of not only networking, but adding value to your troops, to everybody that you surround yourself by too. So everyone has that little niche and what they like to do, and it sounds like you found yours. So with regard to learn, network, add value, take action, how have each one of those impacted you along the way?
So learn, I try to be a sponge. In high school, I was the dumbest jock you could imagine, right? I graduated high school early. I barely graduated college. And then something happened in my brain.
You and I have that in common, buddy. Graduated early from high school, barely graduated college.
Yeah. And then at some point, the Air Force decided that I needed a master's degree. So they sent me off to get that. And now I've got 2 of those. My wife asked me after the second one, she goes, so what's next? Law school, PhD? And I'm like, I'm done. So
I'm toying with the PhD right now. I don't know if it's worth it, but I'm not a teacher. You're not a teacher. I mean,
not a teacher, yeah.
Yeah.
BS, MS, PhD, right? You know what those mean?
Yeah.
Right. So PhD is piled higher, deeper.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so educate somewhere along the line, the brain flipped, and I realized I'm not the jock, and flying airplanes is great. I love it, but it really is just take off, cruise, land at this point, because that's the kind of flying I do, and that's not fulfilling. You do it for 23 years, kind of works on that, right? So, so anyway, the add value part is something that, just like you said, being a connector, doing the jobs that I've had throughout the Air Force and now in command and whatever else, just trying to, talk to people, learn what they do, and then see, hey, I've got this other guy or gal, whatever, and let me connect the two dots and see if there's something there. Sometimes there is, sometimes there's not, and but that's where I try to do some good.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and you do a very good job about that also. And myself and also the rest of the ADPI team can see that in you as well, as just taking these kind of 4 cornerstone things, learning all you can, like you said, I mean, from Automobile University, like Markion likes to call it, and networking with the people around you and adding value to them wherever you can, connecting those dots and all that. And then the one thing that I really like about you that stands out to me is action taking. It seems to me, would you agree that without that component, the rest is just what? The rest is just almost for naught, other than adding value to people. Your personal voyage, your personal journey isn't really going to start unless you have that last component of action taking, right?
True. Because if all you're doing is learning and not doing anything with it, then it's a hobby at that point. It's not a thing, right? The adding value to other people is an action step in itself, right? If you don't talk to people, then you can't pour yourself into them. And I really do. I do see myself as pour myself out, because I don't want to keep it in, right? It doesn't do me any good. Yeah. So if I can give it away, and this is what you send out in the world comes back to you tenfold, right? So I would much rather give out everything I can, and actually throughout this COVID thing, I realized when I was in Texas and restaurants started opening up, my initial gut check on how much to tip at a restaurant or a bar was not, I'm gonna look what's actually 18% on the before tax. No. I'm tipping like 20-25%, just whatever. And I went through a drive-through coffee place the other day, and she held up the little tablet and said, "What do you want to add something?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll hit the $3 thing." I bought a $1.50 cup of coffee, and I tipped her $3.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So so that's. There's a few things in there. There's the abundance mindset. There's the send it out and get it back, and the pouring yourself out into the world, and that's really it. And then for the take action piece, I don't watch TV. I didn't watch Tiger King. I don't know.
Good.
You couldn't, aside from the fact that Tiger won the Masters last year. I don't know who won the last World Series or Super Bowl. I don't really.
I'm with you. I am with you on that. I was talking to somebody today about whether or not March Madness finished. Like, I have no idea. I'm not. We're too busy to focus on that stuff.
Somebody told me yesterday that the first game of the 2020 baseball series is going to be the Nationals and the Yankees. And I just moved from DC, and my daughter is wearing a Washington Nationals championship shirt, and I'm one of the biggest Yankee fans. Right, I love the Yankees, right? Because nobody's won any more World Series, and you can take Boston and just keep going up the coast. So anyway, but I didn't know, that's not something I follow anymore, and so I don't binge Netflix. I don't, I'll watch things once in a while, but for the most part, I'm all over YouTube or podcasts.
Yeah.
I've got
using your time wisely. And, if you're out there thinking, oh man, this lieutenant colonel is nuts, you got to time block. If you want entertainment time, just time block your entertainment time. I mean, you can time block family time just so you don't have distractions, not because your family isn't important, but you need to time block time away from whatever it is. So if you think, oh my gosh, that's too much, that's like working all the time, time block entertainment. And get deliberate about it.
So here's one of the things that I'm 45, right? I'm older than not everybody, obviously, but it's taken me a while to realize that if I'm not putting it away and putting it, like we're talking about savings and reinvestment and just rolling it over, it's not coming later.
Mhm.
And every day you wake up, you're one day closer to taking off the uniform for the last time, right? We've always talked about that, or not flying again, or whatever
Yeah.
milestones are out there that you don't know when that's going to happen. And I come from a family with some moderate health problems, right? That develop later in life. So I don't smoke, and I like my brown water. But there's, it changes the way that you do your today,
Mhm.
right? Because if you're looking at tomorrow, uh, my greatest impact to society at large, right, is my three daughters. Period. Dot. Right.
Yep.
I've talked about that in my why during my 30-day Atom challenge, and if I don't show them this is what life and investment and money is, and they're 13, 11, and 7, right? They're not going to grow up that way.
Yeah.
And now, what is the next generation? What is the generation after that? And that's how I found the life insurance thing. I've been reading about the life insurance for years because I read a book, What Would the Rockefellers Do? I don't know, I think I read that book 2.5 years ago. And the generational wealth piece is what got me, because my grandfather was an accountant, World War II vet. He was in the Pacific. He was a CB, and he was after the war. He was an accountant, and he would talk to me about money. And I was, at the time, remember how I said I was dumb? Too dumb to get it. I didn't get it.
Sure.
And after he passed away, I found a stack of his letters to me that, again, I don't even remember getting the letters, much less reading the letters. But now that I was in my mid-30s at the time, and I'm reading these letters, I'm going, I was embarrassed for myself that here's my grandfather trying to tell me things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And I was too arrogant and stupid and
Yeah.
bullheaded to even listen.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I don't want to raise my daughters. Not to say my parents did a bad job, but I don't want to raise my daughters to not listen to the lessons. Right.
Well, there are so many things that are not taught to most of us growing up. I grew up in the Midwest and had a great upbringing, but still in the 80s when I was kind of growing up, it was like you don't talk about money or you don't ask somebody what they're investing in. Like that's
Yeah.
kind of a taboo topic, right? And so now, what ADPI is really actively doing here is shifting a mindset of somebody who grew up in that scenario, in that setting, in mainstream America. And the military's job is not to teach you financial literacy. It is to teach you how to fight wars and protect our great nation. And so here we are. You've done a lot and you've had a ton of experiences, a ton of knowledge. You understand, learn, network, add value, take action like nobody else. It's amazing to watch you grow. So what has gotten you there? As far as ADPI products and services, what have you used and what have you found as to be most effective?
Let's see. So I know nothing about the VA loan until I got into ADPI. I knew it existed, but I didn't know anything about that. So the VA loan mastery sections within the modules was something that it was all new to me, and all the videos on the different ways to use it and all that stuff. That was a big part of what I didn't have, and it's an entitlement that I've had for the last 20 years and didn't know about it. So I joined Atom probably in February or March.
For those of you who don't know what that is, that's Action Takers Only Mastermind. It's our 1 to 4 unit investing mastermind. Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. No, and I got it because there was a special, right? I'm one of those, buy this, get that free, right?
Oh, me too.
Consumerism. So I bought the regular military investing academy, real estate investing academy.
Yep.
You get a month or two of Atom for free or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's what I signed up on. And
we're still running that too. 30 days free in Atom. So
yeah, and I got to tell you, Atom has been awesome because the interaction and the people that go back and forth, and it's great. Kevin and Mike, yes, sorry, Mike, do a great job of running that. The Q&A, it's a Thursday or Sunday Zoom, is great, and there's been one or twice that I've been on there and it's just me. I'm like, okay, I get these two guys that
Yeah, that's one-on-one. That's one-on-one coaching. Yeah.
one-on-one time, right? You know,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
charge for your mentoring, and Tim
Yep.
charges for his mentoring, and it's so anyway, it's total value right there, and you can bounce things off of people, and it really is great. And then actually, I want to touch on the multifamily. And you know this because I asked you about it. I was on the cusp of clicking join, right? I was on the list and things like that, and there was something that there was. So as you've touched on the action side of what I do, and I looked at this and I was like, okay, if I'm going to jump into this mastermind and this training program, I'm going to want to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
And I looked at my spreadsheet, I looked at my balance sheet, and I'm not ready for this.
Yeah.
And because I didn't have the education up front, right, means the execution things that I've done before are not yielding the expectations because I didn't do the underwriting right, or I didn't purchase, I've made mistakes. Nothing's perfect, but fall forward, move forward, and keep going. And I think my guess is I'm probably a year away to unfornicate those mistakes.
Sure.
That it puts me on solid ground to go forward.
Well, you've seen it and you know it's there. It's not going anywhere. And he's talking about the Military Multifamily Academy and Mastermind, and we actually have students closing on deals here pretty soon. And it's coming from a group of veterans. We are you, you are us, same thing. And we have 1,200 doors collectively, and we just wrote an offer on 560 plus door property at over $60 million valuation. So
crazy.
So we are actively doing it. We are buying multifamily, but we're also, teaching it and just sharing our experiences and making sure people are comfortable when they are ready to submit those offers and things. So, man, have you done any lending from American Mortgage Network yet? You're certainly aware of it.
Yep.
Okay.
I talked to one of the guys for that refi, and
yep.
It was the timing wasn't right, and then my broker worked it out that it was couldn't pass it.
But you're aware of it now. You said the VA loan is something that you were just like, oh my gosh, like only 13% of veterans that have access to the VA loan have used it nationwide. So it's an amazing thing. Like you 24 years of service, and you're just learning about kind of the power of the VA loan. Imagine 20 years ago or 24 years ago, had you been an O1 or even an E1 or an E4 or whatever, and you're just getting off base, if you can buy a fourplex with no money out of pocket and military house hack that sucker, or a duplex or a triplex, or even a single family military house hack with no money out of pocket, it's a pretty amazing thing. And you can even have the seller pay closing costs, roll in your VA loan funding fee, and truly come out of pocket, no money out of pocket. So that's pretty neat. And then ADPI insurance, you talked about whole life. That's a whole other ball of wax, but starting a whole life insurance policy to really wealth build. I mean, it is a new way and we did a Frontline report talking about whole life, but it's a new way of wealth building for regular Americans who aren't taught this on a regular basis. If you listen to Dave Ramsey, he's going to say a whole life policy is the worst thing ever, but that's the wrong kind of policy. It is not built the right way.
Yeah, it's not a new way. It's because
new to people who aren't taught it. Yeah.
Exactly. But before your IRA, before the Tax Act, this is the way that Americans, when we had a farming economy, this is
the old new.
It's the old new, right? Exactly. So everything old is new again.
Yeah.
Same with the Army Greens. The Army Greens are new again.
Yep.
So, same thing.
So what's your biggest takeaway been throughout this whole process? I mean, it's been a relatively short period of time for you in really kind of snowballing this action and this education and this part of your life. So what has been your biggest takeaway from ADPI and the community?
I think the takeaway I've taken from the education is that it's not one piece of information. It's one piece tied to another, stacked on top of a third with something else hanging off of it. Right. And it's the way it all comes together, and you can't do that alone. Right. I can read all this stuff, but I can't aggregate it myself. Maybe there's geniuses out there. I'm not one of them. So the fact that the group of ADPI guys and the team that's built right with everybody, not just the core
Yeah.
five, but just
Yeah.
the whole ADPI team.
No, and the whole community right now, as of recording this, at 11,000 people plus.
Mhm.
You're in the mastermind also, which is that's bouncing ideas off of other people. So that's a bigger part of the action taking piece, not just because you're in it, but because you can then take those pieces, those stepping stones and those things hanging off and tie them into someone else's idea. Tie them into like, hey, John, like, what do I do with that thing? And
Yep.
it's not just you trying to figure it out. John's then going to help you figure out how to implement that thing, right? So
Absolutely.
community is huge.
Yep. Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. When was it? 2 months ago, there was a piece of land in California. It used to be an old Air Force base. It was a gray site, and I put it in the group. And the list of people that no, I'm an environmental lawyer. I'm a this. I'm a that.
Oh yeah.
And it was great because I thought about that. I'm like, I could see the ocean, right?
Could have been a mistake. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. $2 million for 40 acres. I could see the ocean. You got to be kidding me.
So let me leave you with this. What are your recommendations or advice for somebody who's watching this right now and just getting started?
Like just getting started, pick up the books, right? Start with the electronic copies of the books because they're free. Just download them and read them. And then just start responding to any Facebook post that just suits your need, right? Hey, that interests me. Like to learn more. If that's what you do, somebody will jump in there. I'm not guaranteeing somebody, but for the most part, one of the moderators will usually go, hey, here's a link to a something, right?
Yep.
And then just click the link and go down Alice in Wonderland's rabbit hole because it's incredible. And you don't know until you take that. It's not clickbait, right? There's no sell.
It's literally a link to a resource. Yeah.
Right? And and if most people think that it's a Facebook group, right? That's one of the other things. It's not just a Facebook group that you see, right? You get to the website and you go, oh wait, look at this, and you just spend some time and explore, and just integrate, right? Integrate yourself into the community. And I've said to Eric, I've said this to you, I've found my tribe. I've been bouncing around, and this really is my tribe.
And we see that. And what I hear you saying is engage and integrate. Engage. So even if you're clicking on someone else's post and trying to say, hey, I'm following, or hey, what does that mean? Or if you have a question, ask it, because you will get 50 answers to your question on a regular type of thread. Yep. So it's okay if you do either one of those, but definitely engage. And when we send you a link, I mean, we have a new credit guide that is out, just approved today, which is going to help people repair, maintain, and improve their credit. That's a free ebook. If you have bad debt, we want to get rid of that. So we have the ebook, which is creating your financial foundations ebook. That is huge, and Tim Kelly put that together. Free resource. Our book, #1 bestseller on Amazon, free. And anybody can get it. Military House Hacking. You don't have to buy it on Amazon. In fact, don't. Just go get the free copy. It's fine, unless you want to like have a tangible book and highlight stuff or whatever. That's fine. But then we've got a capital raising module that is free from the Multifamily Academy. We have the VA Loan Mastery course that is free from the Military Real Estate Investing Academy. We have tax advice that is free with Brandon Cox. We have legal structuring consultation that is free with Anderson Advisors, and they are a big dog company that do amazing things. Corey Posgay is in the group, and he is a senior advisor with them, and a former Marine. So we are working with military folks to give you military-minded services, and all of the content we create is by us, for you, because you are us. So really
put your stuff. Tim Kelly and Kevin made their action guide, the 13-week.
Oh, the 13-week. Yeah, that's coming out soon too. Absolutely.
I can't wait to get my hands on that. I need a binder to put that's structured, because right now, the standard green hardcover, write everything down.
Yep. 13-week action journal is what he's talking about. That is going to be a beautiful hard copy. We just got the first proof done, and by the time people are listening to this or watching this, it'll be available. So,
yeah.
Awesome. Well, man, thank you so much for coming on. I know this was kind of a spur of the moment thing, but I wanted to do this because I want people to know who you are, because you're inspiring everyone around you to do more, to take more action, to take advantage of free or paid resources. Doesn't matter. The point is, do something more for yourself and your family because you deserve it, they deserve it, and influence people because you are a great example of somebody who is just inspiring the people around them to do stuff that they should be doing anyway, right?
Figure out what you like to do and just do more of it.
That's exactly right. Well said. Well, Dave, it's been a pleasure. I will be definitely talking to you soon, either way, whether you like it or not. So we'll talk to you soon. I appreciate your time.
We need to find a lake in the mountains and get those RVs together. And
buddy, let's do it.
Love it. Yeah, absolutely, buddy. All right, good seeing you.